Hello everyone. This is a recording of a talk I had with Nayaswami Ramesha about the guitar, its role in chanting and in kirtan, and how we can use it to uplift the energy of the chants. Whether you are an experienced guitarist or you're just beginning, you may find this video very helpful because he will give some tips on how we can attune ourselves more to the instrument, to the chanting, and to how to really add to the chant, as well as he will give some basic strumming patterns that you can use during your chanting and a little bit of finger picking as well. I recommend you watch the full video, but you can always use the timestamps below in the video or in the description in order to find that which you are looking for. Now, Nayaswami Ramesha is probably one of the best in Ananda to share with us about the guitar, since he's been playing it for decades in kirtans, in choirs, in small groups, and he has tremendous experience with Swamiji's music and with the chants as well. So we hope you will find this very helpful and joyful. Om Guru. So to start with, why don't we just say a little bit that what is the role of the guitar when we talk about chanting and kirtan?
So, my understanding is that, as you probably all know, or traditional Indian chanting doesn't involve guitar. And when when Master introduced his style of chanting, he didn't use the guitar. But at some point during the development of Ananda, Swamiji felt that if we played the chants only with harmonium, sometimes they would become a little bit dirgy, they would drag themselves a little bit, and the rhythm was no longer very clear, especially in group chants. If you do that on your own, that doesn't matter much. You can do pretty much whatever you want. But when you chant in a group, if there's no rhythm, it becomes harder for people to follow. And instead of helping you to go inward, it takes you outward because you're trying to figure out how to follow and chant along with the other people. And so Swami felt it was important to introduce some rhythm. And at first he tried with drums, but Westerners are not very good playing Indian drums in general. There's a few exceptions probably, but in general, they're not very good, especially at that time. And so at some point he realized that Westerners can play guitar. The guitar is an instrument that is very, very common in the West. And also, it doesn't just provide chords, but the guitar can also be a somewhat percussive instrument. So it's an instrument that provides also clear rhythm. And so he felt that introducing the guitar would be a good way to provide that rhythm structure that was lacking a little bit. And so this is the main reason why he introduced it. Now, introducing the guitar meant also introducing chords more than what it had been done before. And so that's a whole another topic about chords and how we should use them, and maybe we should talk about this a little bit later. But the primary role of the guitar, the way I understand it, is okay, yes, it provides chords, but it also provides more of a rhythmic structure to the chanting that makes it more dynamic and more easily, in a way that people can easily follow, especially in the context of a kirtan or group chanting where we all want to sing together and not just guessing where the rhythm is going. So that's the primary role of the guitar.
When we use in kirtan other instruments, like especially in India, we use a lot of the cymbal and the drum as well. I noticed that some people who are very tuned into drums, like tabla players and all, they tend to feel a little bit more the clash between different rhythms and things like that. But how does it go with the cymbals and the drum? Should we be concerned too much about what's going on around us, or I don't know if you understand what I
Yeah.
mean.
Well, what I noticed is that in general, the percussions, uh, very often they tend to be too loud. Like the percussionist, especially they play tablas. I think because tablas takes so much, uh, it's very refined. It's a very sophisticated type of percussion, and so the tendency is a little bit to overpower whatever is going on. And so both the guitarist and the percussionist, I think, should be very, very sensitive in the way they play so that it doesn't become the main thing that's happening in the chanting. The main thing that happens in the chanting is most definitely the melody. The melody is the most important thing that we have to emphasize, and everything else that we do, whether it's playing guitar, playing drums, even the harmonium itself, we have, whatever we do has to support the clarity of the melody. Ultimately, we just have to keep in mind what it is that we chant for. We're chanting to God, we're chanting to tune into God, we're chanting to express our devotion. And the reason why the melody is the most important thing is that that's what is getting us closer and closer to the one vibration of Om. Ultimately, there's no more notes, there's just one sound. That's what we're tuning into. And so everything else that happens can support and inspire the achievement of this goal, or it can distract us from achieving it, depending how we do it. So the guitars should definitely probably practice with the percussions so that they agree on how to do things. And if there's no time to practice ahead of time, then it's really up to each individual player to tune into what the other people are doing and make sure that you don't impose your own God's will on what's happening, but you really tune into the group and follow what everybody else is doing. And this is a great teaching also for community living. This is what we do. This is why playing and singing together is such a great teacher for community living, because we cannot impose our own way. We just have to tune into what everybody else is doing and what is trying to happen and just do it together. I hope this answers the question the way you meant it.
Yeah, I think it does. And I have noticed also, because as you mentioned, it does put emphasize the rhythm, the guitar keeps the rhythm. I have noticed that sometimes some chanter will start doing, not even started chanting, just the instrumental part that sometimes we do before we actually start chanting, just playing the melody. And then the guitar starts, and when they start, the whole chant slows down. Now there is this a lot of energy, but if you, for example, clap your hands or whatever, you realize that the chant is actually being played very slowly, but because the guitar is kind of keeping playing, it has that illusion or feeling, maybe real feeling of having a lot of energy, but it has slowed down quite a bit. How do you recommend people tune in to this to make sure that they are there, as you say, they're not imposing a rhythm in the leader and all that? Is it also playing soft at the beginning, especially if you don't have time to practice, as you mentioned, or have you found some ways, tricks to help tune in into the leader?
Well, yeah, I mean, tuning into the leader obviously is fundamental. A good practice in general, I don't know, this is more the way I tend to do it. I don't know that this is necessarily what should happen, but when I usually play guitar in a kirtan, or I rarely play harmonium. There's a lot of people who play harmonium, so I don't usually do that. But what I tend to do, especially if I am not leading that particular chant, is I start first playing very softly. I'm not strumming, even if it's a fast chant. I usually don't strum. I maybe just pluck a few strings here and there. And that allows me to tune into how the chant leader wants to do it, but it also makes it nicer to not come in immediately, boom, full blast with the whole power of the guitar, but to just, do it a little bit at a time, and um, it makes it a lot also musically more beautiful, and the same thing towards the end of the chant, the guitar should know when it's time to withdraw, and at some point maybe just the harmonium is left at the end to finish it off and to just help us to take it into this inward place. So yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's a real trick, in order to tune into the leader, other than tune into the leader, but really tune into him or her, just listen. And then when you come in, if you feel that the chant is too fast and you're not able to do whatever strumming pattern you know fast enough, maybe you play softer and you do something else. Maybe you just do some strumming here and there, but you don't do the full strumming pattern. I don't know, but it's very important to tune into what the leader is doing, because yeah, the guitar tends to impose a structure, a rhythm, and then everybody else follows it, partly because it's so loud, and it's very clear. It's like having a drum. How do you not follow a drum? Eventually you'll follow it, even if you have a different idea of what the rhythm should be. So yeah, it may take some time, and it's very important for the guitarists to really work with this and really tune into it. I don't know that I can give any more explanations or suggestions, really. It's really tuning in. And I can show later what I do, so that, at the beginning of a chant, or I can show now. I don't know. Maybe I can show now so it doesn't. Okay, so for example, let's say that I am playing. You see me? I'm playing. That I'm playing Lord, I Am Thine. Okay, so, and Lord, I say this because this is one that usually, it's fast and very rhythmic. So if the harmonium player starts, Lord, I am thine. So what I do, first I let him play his intro, and then I just do something. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. So I'm playing very softly, very mellow, and then maybe starting on the second or the third round, then I start strumming. But by then, not just me, but everyone who's singing will have established themselves in whatever rhythm the harmonium player has chosen to have. And so then I can start, Lord, I am thine, I am thine. I can start strumming, and then it's fine, But initially I just do a little, it doesn't have to be even anything really definite. I'm just, Lord, I am thine, I am thine. I'm just playing the chord and a few strings like that, changing the chords along with the harmonium player. So that's just an idea.
That's very helpful. And since you did, I don't know if you call it, what do you call finger picking, finger plucking? What is it called?
Yeah, I think it's some kind of plucking, even though I do it with the pick, because that's what I will use later when I'm strumming. So I use the pick and I keep it there, but it can be done with the fingers, and then you can pick up the pick. That's also possible. Sometimes I do that. I keep the pick on my knee or my leg, and then I pluck with my hand, and then I pick it up real quick.
Oh, nice. But then you did some of that plucking. Let's call it finger picking for now, because many people do it with their fingers too. And I think usually they find it easier. At least I find it easier. But is that also to give rhythm, or is that to give more beauty, or is it the same role as the strumming, but in a softer way that it does?
Well, it doesn't it doesn't give such a definite rhythm as the strumming would do. And also, I don't know, I mean, if you play only plucking a chant like this, you'll probably be buried. Nobody can hear you. You know what I mean? If you have a harmonium player and maybe you have 4 or 5 singers and you have somebody play the drums and somebody play the kirtals, who's gonna hear the guitar plucking? Nobody. I mean, so, and especially if you want, as a guitar player, if you want to contribute by giving rhythm, then the strumming is more effective. But you can be plucking. Sometimes we have kirtans here where we have more than one guitarist. And so one guitar plays the strumming, and the other guitar does plucking chords like this. Maybe the same chord played in a different position, so it sounds a little bit different. And you just have to put the microphone very close to the guitar to even appreciate what they're doing, because otherwise you don't hear anything. But that's also possible. So it does add beauty in that sense. It really does. Yeah.
Are there some chants that you will only do finger picking and not strumming at all? Or there are chants, if not, you just don't play the guitar at all and that's it?
Oh, well, that's a good question. So I have chants that I definitely just finger pick because they're very, very delicate. For example, Sri Yogananda is one of them. Um, I mean, you can strum very lightly as well, but it's a lot nicer, just doing finger picking because it's so intimate. Um, as far as harmonium only chants, this is something that we often talk about with the other music leaders here. It would be good to always include chant in a kirtan, let's say, to always include chants that are done only with harmonium, even if guitar would be possible, just because it really, especially towards the end of the chanting session, because it really helps to bring the energy back more to a center. Again, let's never lose sight of what it is that we're chanting for, you know. And ultimately, the harmonium, especially when it's played with just melody, maybe you can have a drone, but no chords. It's more just the melody. It really helps to get into that space, that more inward space. So, yeah.
That's good. I have
And
a
then there
question.
are sorry, I just realized there are chants like, for example, "Deliver us from delusion." I don't usually play guitar on that. Um, I I don't know. I mean, I've never tried, to be honest. It doesn't really feel like it wants to be played with guitar. Um, Other chants that are usually done without guitar are "I will be thine always." I mean, you could, but why? It's just so inward as it is. "Desire, my great enemy," you can do the, you know, "It's giving me lots of trouble." You can do those more rhythmic parts if you want. But yeah, the guitar is, I mean, if you keep in mind why Swamiji introduced the guitar, it becomes easy to figure out which chants are more appropriate and which chants are not. It's to add a rhythmic structure. And if the chant itself doesn't have one, then the guitar becomes a little useless or, not quite as important.
That makes total sense. And, so basically, let's say for most of the time, it seems that the guitar is a support instrument, that it should never be taken as like the main part of the kirtan.
Mhm.
However, there is certainly sometimes people do lead a chant with the guitar and then the harmonium will follow along. And how is that to be done?
Well, yeah, actually we do that often. In fact, every Sunday, because usually when I'm playing guitar and I'm leading the chants, I have to say it's easier to lead chants playing guitar than harmonium. At least it seems to me, because you decide the rhythm. So for example, if you do Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, and then at some point during the chant you want to speed it up and make it faster, it's a lot easier to help people in the whole group understand your intentions when you're playing guitar than harmonium, because guitar you start going a little faster and everybody follows you. And this is why the guitar, when it's supposed to follow the harmonium player, has to wait a moment and not impose its own rhythm. So, but yeah, it really depends. Once you've agreed who's leading, then I find the guitar in that sense a lot easier to use it for leading, because you really set a clear intention with the rhythm, and then people follow you more easily.
Would you say that doing the basics in the guitar for chants to add some rhythm, to add something different, is it difficult? How people should get started that interested?
I didn't understand the question. How people
Sorry.
should get started with?
Right, because first of all, if you feel that at least some of the basics for the more rhythmic chants, let's say, is it something difficult to pick up to how the guitar? And if yes or no, how can people get started?
Okay. Well, so I'd say that strumming in general is easier than plucking. So if somebody's starting, I would say start with strumming. And again, I'm gonna lower the camera so I can show what I mean. So this is the strumming pattern that I showed earlier for Lord I Am Thine is very, very common and can be used for a lot of chants. So basically, this is what you would do. So just in general, people tend to think that what you do with your left hand, the chords, is the hardest part of playing an instrument. It's not true. You probably noticed it also with the violin, that yes, it's hard to play the notes in tune, but what really makes the violinist is the sound. And the sound is what you do with your right hand. So the first thing, if somebody's starting, is learn some chords, some basic chords. It could be, I don't know, A and D, and just learn where they are and learn to switch quickly from one to the other. You should be able to do this without even looking. It has to be something that you can watch TV while you do it, and it just happens automatically. And then I would say the first thing to do is you can just play a chant without any strumming pattern. You can just do, Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. You can do this and start this and learn in 2 or 3 days to do this. It doesn't take much. Then if you want, really, it's really easy. 3 chords, 1, 2, 3. And then if you want to learn a pattern, I would recommend like the one that I just did, which is, I'm gonna show it very slowly. So down, so the hand keeps moving. So the hand keeps going up and down, but sometimes it hits the strings and sometimes it doesn't. So down, no hitting, see? Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And you do this, and again, you do it slow at first until you're able to do it without too much mental involvement. If you have to think too much, then it's still not ready. But when it's ready, then you can gradually increase the speed. So that's it. Try to move. Don't stay rigid like this, because then it doesn't sound very good. Try to really move your wrist. And yeah, so but start slow. If you want to be really thorough, you can download on your phone a metronome app that allows you to speed things up gradually. I see, I don't have it ready here, but there are a bunch of them, where it gives you the tempo, like for example, this one. So you can start like this. And you keep the rhythm, and then you gradually increase it, and you go up a little bit. Now this went up too much, but anyway, you know what I mean. So there are ways to do it, and just gradually, it has to be very automated. You should be able to do this while you talk to someone, and then you have the chords. You have this strumming pattern can be used for a lot of our chants. And one of your questions that you asked me earlier was whether it's okay to use the same pattern. Absolutely. I mean, there's all kinds of, I want only thee, Lord, thee, only thee. Same pattern. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare, Hare. Same one. I mean, I can think of, okay, Thou Art My Life maybe is a little different because it's in 3/4 and not in 4/4, so it's a little different. But gosh, they don't even come to mind now. But most chants can be played like that.
I think if we go into the drum and kirtas, all the chants that are,
yeah,
I don't know if you could hear that, but
yeah, clap, 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 clap. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oops.
that is good. Well, since you were talking about strumming partnerships, can you do the same one? Is there? You may have to grab your guitar again. Sorry, but
It's okay.
two things is because even when we play the kirtas, there is two basic rhythms that we do, and as you mentioned in "Thou Art My Life" or I am the bubble, make the sea, or who is in my temple, and how shall I love thee? The pattern is different.
Right.
And I think in the guitar also is different. If you could show us maybe a simple
Yes.
drumming.
Yes. So all those that you mentioned can be played pretty much with the same pattern, which is a little different from Lord I Am Thine, and it is. So let's say, for example, Thou Art My Life. I'll go. So up, down, up, down. Up, down, up, down. See, it's the same principle. Instead of up, down, up, down, up, down, you do it only twice. Down, up, down, up, down. Up, down, up, down. Thou art my life, thou art my life, thou art the sweetness which I do seek. Or, how shall I love thee, Lord my God? Same pattern. What was the other one that you mentioned?
Who is in my temple? I am the bubble, make me the sea.
Oh, yeah. Who is in my... Same one. So, I am the bubble, make me the sea. Yeah, so these are all, I mean, it's absolutely okay to use the same pattern. For example, I Am the Bubble, that's one that I would definitely start mellower, like the harmonium player plays the melody, and maybe you do something more like so do down, just for starting. Thou and thine, and then second time through, so do, and you start with the pattern, with the strumming pattern, because it just makes, it's a natural evolution of the chant. You start slow, not slow, you start soft and more recollected, and then gradually you gradually you just do a little bit more.
As you said, this is one pattern that you have shown us. And sometimes people create their own patterns, and I don't know if create is the right word, I'm sure they're all out there. But do you feel there are some quote unquote wrong patterns to play or Ananda chants? Like, because obviously people can come up with anything, I suppose, as long as it's in the rhythm. But is there anything you feel it will be not really in tune with the way maybe with playing Ananda or for masters chants, Yogananda's chants?
Hmm. I never thought of that. Well, the only thing I would say is to make sure that whatever pattern one chooses fits with what the other instruments are doing. Um, and I really think that the most important thing is to not overpower whatever is going on. So one can do different, I mean, this is obviously these are not the only patterns that can be used for 4 and 3, but they need to be clear. Whatever you do, it has to be clear. If you play a pattern that makes things muddy, then it's not so good. Swamiji always emphasized clarity. So we want to make sure that there's that clarity. And it's same with the drum. If somebody plays the drum, but their beat is not right where it should be, and it's a little bit not quite as clear, then it tends to take you out of focus instead of help you go deeper. So I would say that that's probably more important rather than one pattern versus another. I think as long as you have the correct rhythm, 4 or 3 or whatever, any pattern is good. I think I'm right in saying this. I'm not entirely sure. I've never thought about it, but the important thing is clarity in general, and to really play with people and not against them, basically.
Sometimes, I don't know if this is correct or not, but as you said at the beginning, if you have a pattern, as long as you're fast enough to go with the rhythm, it seems to me, and again, I don't know if I'm right, that some people know a certain pattern, and when they try to speed it up, they are able to speed it up, and they're like, going like super, super fast. And I don't know if that breaks a little from the chant or not.
Yeah, well, it also depends how, this is maybe a little bit more technical, but when you play fast, oh, wait, I realized that I have to, I need 2 cameras, one for the guitar and one. So, when you play faster, a lot of people I've seen, you can even see it physically, without even hearing, that they become very rigid like that. And then what you hear is not so pretty anymore. It's very, it's not very pleasant. And not only that, if you play a whole chant for 10 minutes like that, you're probably gonna have cramps in your wrist because it's not very healthy. So what I said earlier about keeping your wrist relaxed is very, very important. Always make sure that the movement comes from there. And so then you can, like for example, when we do I know the Festival of Light is not done in India, but when we play, the thunder of Om. So this goes pretty fast. And it's if you go like this, it doesn't sound very good. So it has to be very relaxed and also light. You don't need to really dig into the strings, especially when you play that fast. It's enough to just touch them and you get a lot of sound. So this is maybe part of what a guitarist needs to spend some time practicing on it on their own, outside the kirtan, because it can always happen that whoever leads the chant, they want to go fast, and then you have to be able to follow, but you have to follow well. Like I mentioned earlier, Hare Hare Krishna, making it faster. So if you go Hare Hare Krishna, Hare, you can go Hare Hare Krishna. That doesn't sound good, and you won't be able to hear anybody else if you play like that. Only the guitar, which doesn't sound very good. So, so be very light. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. So that's maybe part of the training of the guitarist, to learn to play softer, to be more relaxed, to to be able to follow these little nuances. Yeah.
You did mention that strumming is easier to get started, and many people do get scared about the plucking of the strings, and they feel it's a big block. But so when you do finger picking or plucking of the strings, is it just a bass and then the three other in any order, or is there any simple way that they can do it just to get started, before a chant, and then they can go? Is there anything that you can recommend, or how to make it easy for people?
So if you are plucking just a little bit at the beginning, and then you go into strumming, then it doesn't even need to be a particular pattern. For example, okay, let's take Hare Hare Krishna, since we just did that. So it could be Hare 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 Krishna, or Hare. You cannot just be Hare Hare Krishna Hare. You don't hear. You strum a little bit, and then can you see this? Strum. I mean, you can just make it up. If you want a definite pattern, then I would say, actually, I would probably do it with my fingers. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. So there's an infinite number of patterns that you can use. This is another one. As long as it fits in the tempo. Plucking is a little bit harder to do, because you have to, pick one string at a time. I'm not very good at plucking with my pick, so if I have to do a complicated plucking pattern, I prefer to use my fingers. And for example, a very common one is like, for example, for I am the bubble again. So this is a very common. So thumb. So each finger gets a string. So the thumb gets the lowest, and then index, middle, and ring finger. So do thou, my Lord. So you can do this. And by the way, this is also very useful for a lot of Swamiji's songs, not just the chants. Emerald Isle, Life is a Dream. So it's the same one. So it's one that, if one really wants to play music, it would be worth learning. I don't know if this completely answers your question, but in general, when you start, you don't have to do anything specific. Just tuning into what the harmonium is doing. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Just like that. As long as it's soft, and you just change the chords and just follow that way.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We can talk a little bit more, if you don't mind, that I don't know how much you want to talk about this, but because you mentioned it at the beginning about chords, and you say melody is the most important. I think with the guitar, mostly we are playing the chords, which I suppose Swami said emphasize more the emotions, and the melody more the aspiration, or of the soul. And here he writes about, in this book, in Divine Friendship, when he talks about guitars, and I will just read it for the sake of the audience. It says, chords, if too heavily emphasized, can keep the music on an emotional level. And too heavy a downbeat in the strumming of the guitars will also emphasize the emotions and feelings that strengthen the ego with their implied affirmation, I want, I like, I don't like. I think some newer guitarists, when they read this, they get a little scared, of what this Swamiji meant, and about this whole, in India, the concept of harmony is not as big as in the West. So if you could give just a brief, at least, explanation of these two things, a little bit, the harmony part and the emotions, and that whole downbeat, or if there is anything we had to worry about while playing the guitar.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's start with harmonies first. So, yeah, I know that in India harmonies are not so prevalent as they are here, but what I noticed is that sometimes people, you are chanting, especially in a kirtan, you're singing the melody, everybody's singing the melody, and then some people who are maybe more musical, let's say, they start to make up their own melody that harmonizes with the main melody. And this is what Swamiji was also talking about, which is, that besides being distracting, I mean, I find it intensely distracting, maybe because I'm a musician and I'm more tuned into these things. Some people may not even notice, I don't know. But I find it intensely distracting because if I am trying to go deep in the meaning of the words that I'm saying, in the feeling of what these words convey, somebody bringing in something external doesn't help me to do that at all. And all of a sudden, what you're doing is you're listening to that person, but it becomes more about that than about the chant itself. So that's one thing. So using chords obviously can help because the chords awaken a certain feeling in the heart. And so this is why Swamiji also used chords in his music. He created choir versions of his songs. But what we don't want in chants is to emphasize that too much because, again, we want to awaken the feeling of the heart. And I think in the same book that you read from, he quotes Master saying, whip up the feeling of the heart. So whatever we can do to awaken that feeling of devotion is great. But then what we want to do is to direct it upward and not leave it there because it easily tends to become emotion. And so the way we do this is by, yes, we use chords. If we play guitar, especially, we use chords. You can't avoid it. That's how guitar works. But then maybe towards the end of the chant, play them less. Maybe the guitar becomes softer and you let the harmonium just finish it up. It really depends on the chant. I mentioned, for example, the one, the Wave of the Sea, I Am the Bubble. Okay, so that's a great example where you start and the guitar is very soft, then it comes in strumming, and so there's more awareness of the chords. But then towards the end, I am the bubble, make me the sea. You don't need all that stuff anymore. You don't need the chords, you don't need the drums, you don't need anything. You just need to go deep in that feeling, in those words, that melody that takes you into oneness, and that's Om. So it really, I think the most important thing for new guitarists especially is to really have the openness and humility to follow people who are more experienced. because you can have all the skills of guitar playing, but if you don't attune to the people who are more in tune with the music, with the vibration, you end up imposing what you know to be good and musical. And maybe it is very musical, but it may not be in tune with what we're trying to do. And this is something that we often see, you know, when somebody comes to Ananda and they're very, very skillful musicians. You know, we just had recently an example. Somebody came from Italy, an incredibly talented musician, and a rarity in that sense, because he's so talented, but at the same time, he's very, very willing to be listening and open and learning how we do things at Ananda, because he recognized that the music at Ananda is done in a different way than how you do it in the professional world. And so just come with that receptivity and, you know, listen. If you're playing with Bharat or anybody else who's playing harmonium, just tune into them, because they've done it for a while. They know better. And it's really, honestly, it's a lesson in discipleship in itself. You know, you don't impose your own idea ever. Even if you've been on the path for 50 years, you know, you still tune into what other people are doing. And so if you play chords, you can play chords. It's not like you cannot play chords, but just listen sensitively to what is going on. And maybe there's a moment when that's too much, and then you can just, you know, play less. Maybe instead of strumming 200 miles per hour, you just do one strum once in a while and just gradually let it go. The downbeat, obviously, if you're strumming, you have a downbeat. You cannot avoid playing a downbeat. But maybe just, you know, instead of going like this, you know, very light, the way I showed earlier, you know, learn to, you know, use your wrist so that you're more relaxed, and you can have a lighter sound that, by the way, is actually more beautiful. And if you could analyze on a level of sound wave, you will see that when you produce a sound, light sound, using your wrist and a relaxed hand, you actually produce more overtones and more frequencies. So it's also, musically speaking, more valid, but it's not quite in your face. And so that's what you're trying to avoid. You know, you just want to just blend in. In a kirtan, we're all there together to achieve one goal, and the goal is to help everyone have a deep experience. So whatever we can do to foster that is great, and whatever we do that takes away from that is not as good, and so we should try to avoid it. But it takes some time to develop that sensitivity. It's not something that comes, it doesn't come certainly just because you're a very talented musician. And it doesn't come because you've played in one or two kirtans. It takes some time. So just give it time. And I think we can all learn from that, you know, being more receptive, more humble about what we do, and just, you know, just see what's trying to happen.
Thank you. Those were very wonderful words, Ramesha. And it's been a wonderful conversation and sharing, very, very helpful. I was going to ask you for some concluding words. I feel like those were wonderful concluding. I don't know if you have more concluding words than that.
No, I'm just very happy to know that there are more people also in India who are interested in learning to play guitar. It's wonderful. We have, even though we have a lot of guitarists here in the States, there's not very many who really want to learn to play this music well. And so it's wonderful. I'm really glad that people are interested in. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Ramesha, for this wonderful sharing and satsang.
Oh, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I appreciate it.